Your growth is dependent on your level, your depth of vulnerability. The more vulnerable you are, the more that you take a deep dive into yourself and really just open up and accept the things that you struggle with, the more you will grow, okay? The more basically you take the lid off of the cover, the lid off of the plate, the lid off of the bowl, the lid off of, the skillet, whatever you want to take the lid off of, the more you let that lid off and you let stuff come up and out, the more you'll grow. The more vulnerable you are, the more comfortable, the more comfortable you are with being emotionally unsafe. Can I say it that way? The more comfortable you are with being emotionally unsafe, then the more you can grow, okay? The opposite is true too. If you're not comfortable being vulnerable, then you're not going to grow as much. You're not going to grow as much, okay? You just have to understand that your growth is dependent on your vulnerability. Now, there are people in your life, maybe a friend, maybe your partner, it might be a coworker that you feel more comfortable disclosing and being more vulnerable with, right? And then there may be people that you're not as comfortable with, right? Of being more vulnerable. I get that. And I'm not arguing that you have to be vulnerable with everyone, right? You have to be vulnerable with yourself first. A lot of people can't even be vulnerable with themselves. They can't be vulnerable to let those things kind of, that lid off and let those things, some people can't even acknowledge that they struggle with things, okay? Some people have trouble just acknowledging their struggles, which you have to be vulnerable with yourself first. And then when you're vulnerable with yourself and you can really start to feel that comfort of being vulnerable with yourself, then you can start to test it out with other people, all right? So part of my work with people is helping them to become more vulnerable with themselves, having them feel, emotionally, they can feel unsafe, all right? Feeling unsafe emotionally is a big skill. A lot of us may have had times in our life where we've been emotionally unsafe and things have happened. We've been, people have said mean things to us. We've been rejected. Various things have happened in our lives when we were vulnerable, and so we just basically now protect it, all right? We protect it. So the more vulnerable you are, the more opportunities for you to personally grow, all right? And so we talk a lot about in therapy, especially therapy, hopefully if you're in therapy, you feel safe enough with your therapist that if you don't, that's the number one goal, is that connection we talk about. If no one else, you got to feel safe with your therapist. And if you don't feel safe with your therapist to be emotionally vulnerable, then you got to find a different therapist. You got to find someone else to be emotionally vulnerable with, y'all, all right? But emotional vulnerability is a big, it's extremely important if you want to personally grow, if you want to personally develop, if you want to personally get stronger. All right, y'all? Okay.
On track, now we gon' way up. Don't be used as easy as a layup.